Hey there, I'm so glad you decided to join me today. Today I'm going to be discussing an incredibly powerful topic about the effects of trauma and how we can learn to deal with and recognize those in our lives. Also, I'm going to be sharing with you some really practical ways that you can begin to heal from some of the physical and emotional damage that trauma can leave in our lives. So it is my hope in this video that you'll be able to leave feeling encouraged, that you will even begin to recognize some of the reasons maybe why your body is acting the way it is, or maybe you react to certain situations the way you do, and you'll be able to start to heal yourself. So I hope that you'll just glean something from this video, learn something, and if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave those below. I will read those and I will respond. So thanks, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's jump right in. Most of us have experienced some kind of traumatic event in our lives. Most of the time, we remember them or can point them out. It may be things like a hospitalization or the loss of a loved one, or it could be an abuse or an abandonment. It could be, just, I don't know, a car accident, or if the feeling like you're never being heard, like you have no voice. There's so many things that can be traumatic in our lives. And those things may not seem all that bad to us at the time. And some of it obviously is really, really bad, and we can recognize that that's very traumatic. And then sometimes there may be things that we think, that's not that bad. Hey, it wasn't fun for the moment, but later on when you kind of just stuff it and you think, well, it wasn't that bad. And then one day, all of a sudden, this button gets pushed, or like a trigger on a gun goes off, and then all of a sudden it's like Pandora's box has just been opened, and you're like left feeling like, what just happened? Some of that has happened in my own life, and so I just really wanted to share some of those things with you. Because God has done such an amazing work of healing in my life, I really want to extend some of this information to you guys so that you can grab a hold of some of this for yourself. So just a little backstory. I've dealt with a lot of trauma personally in my life. I didn't really call it trauma. I thought only people that, went to war experience like PTSD and things like that. But truly, like, I didn't understand that. I really was a prisoner, so to speak, a prisoner of war, of a spiritual kind, a war that I didn't even see, that I couldn't see going on around me. And that abuse that I endured as a child, and then I continued to endure as an adult, in an unhealthy relationship for years and years, really affected me and really started to physically affect me, because trauma, I was really shocked to learn this, but trauma sits in our body. It sits in our body just waiting, like a ticking time bomb, just waiting to go off. And it can even go down to the cellular level of our body. And I was just shocked by this information that I've recently learned over the last less than a year now, actually. I just want to share with you a little story. Just some recent things that have happened, because I really, after a lot of the abuse that I dealt with as an adult, even I started walking on this healing journey, and I thought I was fine and everything was good, and God really did heal my heart in so many ways from a lot of pain, and I really thought I was fine. And there was some things I knew that was hidden deep down inside, but I didn't think they were that big of a deal. And then a year ago, last August, I had my son, my third son. And while I had him very early, he was born at 28 weeks, and that was very early, and it was scary. My blood pressure escalated crazy high. I got something called preeclampsia, and I ended up going to the hospital and at 28 weeks with my pregnant with my son, and they said, this baby's coming. And I remember laying in that hospital bed when I was freaking out, and I thought, there's no way I can have this baby. It's too early. And it really was too early. But I knew that it was either I had him or I wasn't going to live, because my blood pressure was incredibly high. And I laid in that bed, and I just remembered a song. I remembered the chorus of a song that I heard. I listen to a lot of praise and worship music. It encourages me. It keeps me going. And I just had this one song just rise up over me and just played, and it brought me such peace, because there was such chaos in the room. And I'm going to really shorten this down, because a lot happened. But I tell you all that to say that was a traumatic event. I laid in that bed freaking out in my mind, like, I cannot have this baby. It's too early. What am I going to do? I was terrified. My husband was at work still trying to get to the hospital. It was just an emergency thing, you know, so that caused some trauma, great trauma and fear to come over me. And then once my son was born, he was born at 2 pounds and 10 ounces. And he was not healthy when he was born at first. We didn't recognize that for about a week. And I laid in the hospital with blood pressure issues continuously. My blood pressure would not go down, on a whole bunch of medicine. And it just was really tough. It was a really tough time. And after a week, we found out that he had to have some surgeries. And he did. And everything has been fine. But he stayed in the NICU for 60 days. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. During that time, I battled with crazy high blood pressure. I mean, my blood pressure was just always high. And obviously, you know, I can look at that and say, well, yes, that was a stressful time, so of course my blood pressure is going to be high. But I also battled with a lot of anxiety. I felt dizzy a lot. I felt like I was going to pass out for no reason. I would lay in bed at night trying to sleep and think, I'm going to die. I'm not going to wake up. Because I was so afraid that when I laid in that hospital bed that I actually would die, that I kept going back there to that moment, to that thought. Even though in the middle of it, in the hospital room and in the bed, I had a peace over me while they were sticking me all over and saying, hey, it's time. You know, I just had this peace because of this song that played over me in my mind. And I just felt like the weight of Jesus laying on my body, like covering me fully. And there was peace. But after that, after it was all over, it was just like this, everything, I just lost it. Like I couldn't compose my mind, you know, my thoughts and things. And it just was a really big struggle. I went from being what I thought was very full of peace. God was peace. You know, he is peace. So he was in me and on me, and I had peace. And then all of a sudden I did not have peace anymore. And I couldn't figure out how to get it back. And it bothered me. It bothered me the whole 2 months my son was in the hospital. And then it continued on after he got to come home. And God continued to bless us. I mean, my son continued to be healthy. Our son continued to grow. And everything was fine. So there really wasn't any big reason for me to continue being stressed out about that. I knew he was fine. And he was fine. But there was something that happened back at the beginning in August when he was born that all the way in December was still affecting me of last year. So it's been 1 year to the day, and I can just tell you that there has been great change in 1 year. But let me just tell you what happened. In December, my back started to go, it went out, and my back I've kind of had problems with my back since I was much younger, probably like 17, and I'm 36 years old now, and I have had back trouble on and off, lower back trouble on and off from the time I was about 17. And I didn't have any real reason, like I didn't get in a car accident. I mean, I don't know, like nobody hit me. I didn't fall in, you know, in any way that I could remember, at least, that would have affected my lower back to have the pain. Well, last December, I could not get out of bed. I mean, I just, something, you know, my back just went out. It just went out. And it was very frustrating because I had a newborn at home. He was only home for a couple months at that point, and he was still pretty light, you know, like under 10 pounds. But I found that I could no longer lift him. I couldn't do anything. And of course that was frustrating for me because I didn't understand why this was all happening. And took a couple of weeks to recover. And once I recovered from that, you know, I started talking to my mother-in-law. And she shared with me, because I was so frustrated at this back pain that had just kind of been a continuous thing, but then seemed to be amping up and getting worse after December. And I was just sharing with her something. And she shared with me a trauma prayer. And this trauma prayer was something that someone had shared with her, that somebody that she knows from one of her clients shared it with her. And she just really encouraged me. She said, I just want you to go listen to this. And I thought, okay, I'll go listen to it. And I did. I went ahead to this website, which I'm going to, I'm going to put the link to that website for the trauma prayer in the comments below, in the section below. So please take a minute and go click on that later on. It will change your life. But at first, I did not recognize that. I just thought, okay, I'm going to do that. But I did. I probably waited about 2 weeks before I finally did, and I just came to the end of myself, and I just was so frustrated and so tired of laying in bed and feeling that fear of death, like I'm gonna die and I don't know why. And I'm not afraid to die, but I was afraid at that moment, in those moments, for those few months, and I couldn't figure out why. So I said, you know what, I came home early from work one day, and I just decided to go ahead and download that. And I sat in my bedroom on my floor, and I started listening to it. And the gentleman that does the trauma prayer, his name is Jim Banks. The minute he began the prayer, I just laid on my face on the floor in my bedroom and listened to that prayer. And as I listened, he didn't get but 2 minutes into the prayer, and I just sobbed. I started to sob. And most of the time, I am not a big crier. I can hold myself together pretty well, but I could not. There was something that really released in me. And he started praying things over me, like telling my body, specifically telling my body to release the trauma that has been in there, and even down to the cellular level, and every fiber of my body, every hair, everything, every word that had ever been spoken over me by someone else or myself. And as I listened to that and I sobbed, there was just such a release of healing. Physically, I could feel myself relax. And that was an amazing time for me. So fast forward to, I guess it was February. So a few months later, I decided I had been doing pretty good, and I thought, hey, that trauma prayer was great. And I thanked my mother-in-law. I shared it with a couple other people, and that was it. And I listened to it a few more times after that. You know, sometimes when I would start to feel the anxiety well up inside of me, I would go ahead and listen to that again. And it was probably in February, a few months later, that I felt this pull in my back again. I felt an incredible pull, and all of a sudden I was down. I was down, and I couldn't move. I was back in the same situation I was in December, just a few months before. And of course, we had to go to the hospital. I had to get a shot in my back to reduce the inflammation. Just the same routine that I had been dealing with. And I'm a healthy person. I'm an active person. I move. I do things. I'm strong. I don't have any problems. So what's going on? I'm very frustrated, and it's slowing me down, and it's causing me not to be able to lift my son, and it's causing a lot of problems for me. So at this point, I'm just so frustrated. So I ended up, I guess it was about a week in pain, and I was sick and tired of being in pain. And I had to go to church on Sunday morning, and I remember standing in the congregation, and it was during praise and worship, and my back was in incredible pain, and I had almost not went to church that day. And I just remember talking to God during praise and worship, and I don't know, when I should have been thanking Him and praising Him, I was complaining. And I was saying, God, why? Why haven't you healed me? What is going on? I believe, I have faith that you'll heal me, but why aren't you healing my back? Why is this not manifested in my back yet? Why am I still dealing with this pain? Why am I weak? And I don't like to be weak, and I don't like to be in pain. So God knew I was very angry. So that day I came home after our service, and it was lunchtime, and at our home we all take little naps and rest on Sunday afternoon. So my son, who is very small still, normally took little short naps, but this day we came home and I laid him down, and he ended up sleeping about 3 hours, and I'm very grateful that he did. When I came home, I decided I'm just going to let God have it. I don't know what else to do. I need to talk to Him. I need to really talk to Him undistracted. So I laid in my floor in my bedroom with my journal out, and I said, okay, God, what is going on? Why aren't you healing me? Why are you leaving me this way? And I felt very abandoned and very discouraged. And even though I knew God loved me, even though I knew so much about His faithfulness and His healing power and what He's done for me on the cross, I knew all of this. But in that moment, all I could see was my pain, and I couldn't figure out why He wasn't moving. And so while I began to complain, he just simply replied to me, I want you to get your journal out, and I want you to write. And I was not in the mood. I was not, but I did. I was obedient anyway, and I got my journal and my pen and I started to write. And I'm going to share with you just a little bit of what he said to me that really wrecked me and and it pulled me out of this space and place that I was in and really began to start healing me and showing me where trauma had truly affected me physically. So I'm going to share this with you only because I hope that this is something that you'll be able to take away from today and go, okay, God, what is it for me? Where is this coming from for me? So God, he just started to tell me, I just started to write. He said, the frame is weak because the wait has been much too long. The weight of worry, fear, anxiety, doubt, anger, sorrow, and uncertainty have broken down to the frame under the pressure far too long. You have to shed this unwanted weight spiritually. Your spirit man. The pressure of this has caused an instability in your frame and starts with your foundation. You carry immense sadness and grief. Those are heavy burdens. You refuse to look deep enough in the walls to see the problem points in your structure. Wow. It affects your frame. The ground on the joints and this has ground on your joints and put pressure on the spine, causing herniation, causing the degeneration of important parts of your structure. You're apprehensive towards the idea that what's happening physically starts spiritually. I'm going to stop right there because some of you are probably in the same boat right now listening to this thinking, what is she talking about? But this is what the Lord shared with me. He told me that. I was apprehensive towards the idea that what was happening physically started spiritually. You are even angry at that. And I was. You're reading all there is to know about your physical condition. Let's talk about posture then, daughter. Your posture has much to do with strength. Your core has much to do with it also. You must strengthen your core and posture yourself in such a way that when the attacks come, the blow will not cripple you. You have lived a long life so far. You've indeed been through much, but I say you have more. There is longer life to live. There is so much more to do. More lives to heal. Hear of my victory in your life. Through every trial, storm, and attack, you are not alone. Put away your distrust. Strengthen yourself in me. Yes, you are weak, but I make you strong. Put down all the weight that you are carrying and allow me to carry what is mine. I will pour fresh oil on your joints. I will free you to be mobile. I am. Trust me. Your frame is being stabilized as you do. There will no longer be instability because you are evenly proportioned in me. I am your healer. I am your strength. Put all your heaviness aside and allow me to move in you. When I move you, you're free. Stop looking to traditional means and to the ways of the world to steer you. Look to my ways. And I was very guilty of looking to other ways. They are higher. I created your human body, and I know exactly what is needed to heal it. Trust me, and I will show up. Not little faith, not sort of trust, but all of it. Daughter, acknowledge that this is just part of your story. It's not over. There is much work to do. This will pass, but you must lay aside your doubt. See with the eyes I open for you what is real and what is a lie. Build your core with time in my presence. Allow me to heal you. Let me take the weight and strengthen you in your core. The core supports the frame. Who you are comes from the core of who you were created to be. You are so loved, seen, important, and strong. You're powerful, you're caring, and you're mine. Put aside all false identities and strengths. Put aside all your false ideas of strength. of core strengthening and allow me to teach you a new way, and together we will reconstruct your frame. Allow yourself to see the things that you've held onto, including the guilt for holding on to them. Allow yourself grace. I have this. This is not who you are. You are full of life, health, and joy. I've got your mama. She's safe and waiting for you. Don't worry about the things that you have been worrying about. Allow me to hold the weight while you wait. And I thought, okay, wow. Of course I cried, and that took me lots of time to get out. But then after that, he told me, I want you to write down, and this is some of the practical things that I really encourage you to do. But he told me to do this, so if he puts it on your heart to do it, I would highly encourage you to take the time and do it. He told me, I want you to write down everything that you doubt. And I did. And some things that I doubted that I didn't even want to say I doubted, but I wrote them down. And then he said, I want you to write down everything that you fear. And that was, pretty easy to do. There were some things that I fear. So then he also asked me to write down everything that creates worry and anxiety in your life. And that right there, the other two were a paragraph apiece. Worry and anxiety for me was about 2 pages long. So that was not good. And then he said, write down everything that makes you angry. And I did that. And then he asked me to write down everything that makes you sad or that you're disappointed in. And I did that. And I wrote for a long time. And it might take you a while to get here, and you may not be able to do it all in one day. And it may be a running list for you. It may be something that, comes up new and you need to write that down or you need to bring it to the Lord. That's what I did. So I'm going to leave you with some promises of the Lord. The Word of God is such a powerful tool that we have in our arsenal to fight the effects of trauma and to heal from those. So one of my favorite scriptures, and I'm going to put more below, but one of my favorite is Hebrews 13:5. He says, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you. I'm going to leave some below that you can write and put around on your, in your house, maybe in your car, wherever you'll see those every day, and you can write those on your heart and remember those and go to those when you start to feel some of the negative effects of trauma in your life. If we just stop striving to do it by ourselves and rest in His promises to heal you and keep His watchful eye over you, and just rest in the promise that Jesus already came. He came to die so that we could be free. All we have to do is step into that. He came to heal our trauma, and I'm so grateful for that. I hope that you will listen to the trauma prayer attached in the links below and experience greater healing from trauma in your life.